Hello and welcome. You are watching Race to Power with me, Eric Njoka, your one-stop shop for all news from the world of elections. Here's what we have lined up for you as we kick off another week. Is Joe Biden losing the election? Have Americans lost faith in his presidency? That's the question we are asking an expert, as fresh poll indicates that things might be looking down for the incumbent. We saw a dramatic election in Pakistan and an action-packed week of shifting political alliances during the formation of the government. But that was months ago. It seems there are new twists and turns to the political landscape, and in the eye of the storm are the Sharif brothers. What's brewing between Shehbaz and Nawaz Sharif? We decode Pakistan shortly. While the US presidential elections may be months away, the battle of opinion and popularity polls continue. This time, a CNN poll revealed that former US President Donald Trump has a better success percentage as compared to the incumbent, Joe Biden. Let's take a look at what the numbers say based on the survey conducted days ago. Between April 18th to the 23rd, a substantial number of Americans, 61% of them, feel that Joe Biden's presidency so far has been a failure. Meanwhile, 39% feel that he's a better leader. Let's now see what the results are for Donald Trump with respect to his tenure from 2016 to 2020. 55% of Americans feel that he was a better president, while 44% believe that he failed. The survey also brings to light a critical factor which has many people miffed with the US president. Results reveal that a dismal rating for Biden can potentially be traced to how people feel about the way Joe Biden is handling the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. As per the poll, 71% people disapprove of how the US president has dealt with the conflict and the war-induced crises in Gaza. But it's not just the war that has many people disappointed with Biden. Those who took the survey also have a negative view of how the Democrat leader has handled the economy as compared to his political rival Donald Trump. When asked which presidential candidate do voters prefer in terms of dealing with the US economy, 62% of Americans said they preferred Donald Trump to handle economic concerns in America. Only 30% leaned towards Joe Biden, while the rest were undecided or preferred a third alternative. Adele Nazarian is a political commentator and she's now joining us from Washington, D.C. Good to see you, Adele, and welcome to Race to Power. The political polls or the pollsters have been deviating, they've been fluctuating ever since January. But now the political or the, how do I say it? How do I put it? I'm trying to put it in better terms. The likelihood of Joe Biden satisfying Americans has decreased over the months. Why is it so? Has he failed in his presidency?
Eric, great to be on with you again. You know, it's interesting. We saw a very similar dynamic when in 2016 it was Hillary versus Trump, and we saw them boosting, the polls and, adding numbers here and there and selectively choosing a demographic that would lend results that were what the media networks wanted. So I have to tell you, I think what the CNN poll obviously shows Trump leading. I think that's pretty accurate. But what I think also people need to look at is the NBC News poll, which we'll get to in a second. But I want to say, back to answer your question, I do think that everyday Americans are losing faith in Joe Biden's ability to lead the country from an economic perspective. I think we've seen now, three wars essentially, 2 wars ongoing that the America has entered since he's taken office. And this is just costing taxpayers billions of more dollars. There's more 61 billion sent again to Ukraine foreign aid. This is precisely the very thing that Donald Trump stood against. And if you can take him from a purely economic policy and just a policy standpoint and perspective, I think everyday Americans truly do feel safer from a policy perspective with a Trump presidency as opposed to a Biden presidency, especially with how, this Middle East conflict has been handled. Right. And I think that also is showing. I'd love to address the NBC poll also, if you'll let me.
Okay, before you address the NBC poll, let's talk about Trump. If these trials that he's currently facing were not there, could he have an edge possibly in the 2024 elections?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think it actually is two-pronged. I think it's a catch-22 in a sense. If the trials, if they hadn't thrown everything in the kitchen sink after him and gone after him the way that they're going, over something that I don't think is even, I mean, it's crazy. It's very hyped up and it's completely political. I think he'd have a higher percentage lead over Biden. However, I do also think that, believe it or not, those who are paying close attention and are doing their due diligence, doing their homework, are seeing that this is politically motivated. And I think it's even brought some voters who maybe were not even interested in engaging in voting to actually register, to actually go towards Trump, due to the fact that this is a clear overstepping of the judicial process and a politicization of it. So I think it's worked in both ways. It's both hurt him, but it's also helped him. It really depends on who you speak with.
Adele, you did request to address the NBC poll. I'll give you just a few seconds to address it.
Thank you. I just want to say quickly, it's fascinating to me how NBC put out a poll where they actually said, based on everyday Americans' media consumption of national news, Biden actually leads with those who consume national news from legacy media, and those who don't watch political news actually are voting for Trump. Those who get their news instead through social media and alternative platforms, I think that does the networks in and of themselves to show where their political biases are. So it's going to be a very, very tough race ahead. I think Trump did well in terms of using the media in 2016 to his advantage. This time, clearly, it's not helping him when you go to legacy media and traditional media sources.
All right. Adele Nazarian, as always, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
As India gears up for the third phase of its 7-step elections, a fake video of Union Home Minister Amit Shah has taken center stage. In the latest, Delhi police have summoned the Chief Minister of the state of Telangana, Revanth Reddy. The Chief Minister allegedly shared the video on a social media site. Police have asked for his electronic devices for the investigation. The Assam police have also arrested a Congress worker from Guwahati after he had posted the video on social media platform X. This comes after a complaint from the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center under the Ministry of Home Affairs. The complaint concerned a doctored video of Amit Shah, which allegedly changes his statements where he committed to abolish reservation quotas for Muslims in Telangana. On April 23rd, the Home Minister had said that unconstitutional Muslim reservation would be abolished if the BJP came to power in the state. The statement was allegedly manipulated to make it seem that he was advocating scrapping all reservations, including that of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. The complaints say the doctored video could affect public order as it is being circulated on social media with the intent of creating disharmony among communities. Delhi Police's special cell has registered an FIR under various sections of the Indian Penal Code and relevant provision of the IT Act. Sources in the special cell have said that arrests are now likely to follow across the country. Elections might be long over in Pakistan, but political landscape in the country is changing. In the last 1 week, 2 significant developments have taken place in the country. Former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is all set to return to the helm of the ruling Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz in May, an internal strife And secondly, the government has appointed Foreign Minister Ishak Dar, a close confidant of ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, as the Deputy Prime Minister of the country. Nawaz Sharif is said to head the part 7 years after he gave up the position following a disqualification by the Apex Court. He was disqualified for his alleged role in corruption cases linked to Panama Papers revelations. Sharif has been acquitted in all corruption cases and he will be elected as the PMLN president on May 11th in a party leadership meeting. PMLN Punjab President Rana Sanaullah has said that a resolution was passed at the meeting to undo the unjust meted out to Nawaz Sharif in 2017 by the top court. This comes at a time where it's not all well within the party. Senior figures like Federal Minister Javed Latif, Senator Javed Abbasi, and former Senator Asif Saeed Kirmani have openly criticized the leadership. The points of contention have been cabinet formation. This brings us to the second key development. In a surprising and rare move, the country's Foreign Minister Ishak Dar has been appointed as a Deputy Prime Minister. According to a notification by the Cabinet Division, the appointment was made by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif with immediate effect and until further orders. Questions are being raised if his appointment is because Nawaz wanted a close aide in a key position, or is the government trying to compensate him for the loss of financial portfolio. Ishak Dar served as the Federal Minister for Commerce and Investment in the 1997-1999 government of Nawaz Sharif and has served as the Finance Minister at least 4 times. Even when Nawaz Sharif was the Prime Minister of the country, Ishak Dar was acting as the de facto Deputy Prime Minister. He was heading dozens of government and parliamentary committees as its chairperson. Although a senior member of the party has said that the decision was taken jointly by Nawaz and Shehbaz Sharif, he further claimed that there is no division in the party. And for more on this, our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik has sent us this report from Islamabad.
Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has been appointed as Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister, a first in a decade and 4th time since the independence of the country. Now, it also comes at a point where there are talks of an internal strife or a rift within the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, where Nawaz Sharif seems to be the one calling the shots. Nawaz Sharif is all set to be elected as the party president on the 11th of May, but with that, the appointment of Ishaq Dar also signifies the fact that how trusted is Ishaq Dar by Nawaz Sharif and the lack of trust the elder brother has on the incumbent Prime Minister on the younger brother. Now, it also has to be mentioned that the Pakistani constitution remains silent on the matter of the Deputy Prime Minister and what are his exact roles, functioning and responsibilities. They are not specified in the Pakistani constitution. So what exactly will Ishaq Dar be doing as a Deputy Prime Minister? That remains to be seen. Anas Malik in Islamabad, Pakistan for WION World is One.
The political landscape in Scotland has taken an interesting turn. First Minister and leader of the Scottish National Party, Hamza Yousaf, has resigned. The head of the Scottish government has stepped down a week after he scrapped a coalition agreement with the country's Green Party. After triggering political chaos, Yousaf reportedly failed to secure enough support in order to survive a no-confidence vote against him, introduced by the opposition parties later. In a press conference just a short while ago, an emotional Yousaf said that it was time for someone else to lead Scotland.
To my wonderful wife, my beautiful children, and my wider family for putting up with me over the years. I'm afraid you will be seeing a lot more of me from now. You are truly everything to me. And although, of course, I am not willing to trade my values and principles or do deals with whomever simply for retaining power. Therefore, after spending the weekend reflecting on what is best for my party, for the government, and for the country I lead, I've concluded that repairing our relationship across the political divide can only be done with someone else at the helm. I have therefore informed the SNP's National Secretary of my intention to stand down as party leader and ask that she commences a leadership contest for my replacement as soon as possible.
Yousaf says he will be staying on as First Minister until the SNP elects a new leader, but the Scottish Parliament now has 28 days to choose a new First Minister. If the SNP is unable to appoint a leader within the time frame, elections will be held in Scotland. On the political front, the Scottish National Party has been under the scanner ever since a funding scandal and the resignation of a party leader made headlines last year. All has not been well within the party too, as there have been reports of infighting over how progressive the party's electoral pitch should be as it seeks to woo back voters. The SNP also stands on delicate ground in Parliament. The party has 63 seats out of 129, falling just short of an outright majority. Meanwhile, the Greens have 7 seats, the Conservatives have 31, the Labour Party has 22, and Liberal Democrats have 4. Time now for a short break on Race to Power. When we return, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has decided to stay in office days after weighing his exit of a corruption scandal connected to his wife. Stay with us.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at yowon.com.
Je peux marquer pour le mal fait de son message.
And welcome back to Race to Power on WION World is One. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has decided to stay on in office days after weighing his exit of a corruption scandal connected to his wife. Pedro Sánchez's televised announcement ended 5 days of high tension when he announced in a public letter on X that he was retreating from public duty to reflect on whether it was worth carrying on as Prime Minister. This announcement followed news that a court had opened an investigation into allegations of influence peddling and corruption by his wife, Begoña Gomez. A separate court is now considering an appeal by Madrid's prosecuting authority to dismiss the case for lack of evidence. He insisted his wife was innocent and accused opposition leaders Alberto Núñez Feijóo of the People's Party and Santiago Abascal of the far-right Vox Party of collaborating with those circulating claims against his wife. Over the weekend, thousands of Socialist Party supporters travelled from across Spain for a rally in Madrid to call on Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez to stay on, after he stunned the country by saying he might quit the premiership.
I've decided to continue as Prime Minister, to go on, if possible, even stronger as the Prime Minister of Spain's government. My wife and I know that this mere campaign is not going to end. We have been suffering for 10 years. It is serious. That is not the most relevant thing. We can defeat it. What is truly important is that we want to thank from the bottom of our hearts the love and empathy that we have received.
The Prime Minister's announcement evoked a mixed response from the Spanish public, with some in the capital Madrid saying they were not surprised by his decision, to another one saying the leader was resorting to victimhood. Pedro Sánchez became Prime Minister in 2018 after winning a no-confidence vote against the conservative Mariano Rajoy. The Prime Minister managed to form a new coalition with a narrow parliamentary majority and was sworn in for a 4-year term in November 2023. Now, on Sunday in Mexico, the country saw an action-packed debate between presidential candidates. With the elections just over a month away, 3 leaders took the podium to woo the Mexican vote bank. But a spitfire between the ruling party and the opposition coalition's candidates stole the show. Now, the opposition left no stone unturned in taking a swipe at her political rival, Claudia Sheinbaum.
Her happy figures of growth, employment, security, that there is no extortion. Well, I think you should ask producers in Michoacán, the state of Mexico, Veracruz, how extortion has been part of the economy, and that is why products are becoming more and more expensive.
We also demonstrated the corruption of the prior candidate, and at the same time we were also able to respond to some of the slander because there was so much of it. As I said at the beginning of the debate, it was always going to be a debate of slander.
Her happy
But on the sidelines of the slugfest, there was a third candidate too, Jorge Alvarez Maynez, whose only message, it seems, was to remind Mexico's voters that the elections were not a two-party contest and that there is a third option for them.
This is the final message. A new Mexico is possible. We were told that the election was already defined. We were told that there were only 2 options. We have pulled apart those lies.
Mexico heads to the polls on June 2nd, while the country is almost certain about getting its first woman president. Economy, drugs, migration and fresh water crisis remains the sum of the key issues on the ballot. A major election defeat has triggered a rethink of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's party policies. The president met Liberal opposition leader Lee Jae-myung for talks on Monday. Calls for a change in his leadership style have been growing louder after a stinging defeat in April 10th parliamentary polls. Yoon's People Power Party failed to affect the opposition leader's grip on the parliament. The polls proved to be a litmus test for Yoon, who is now struggling with low approval ratings and an opposition-controlled parliament. Lee himself admitted that election results was a demand for a change of course. This is the first meeting Yoon held with Lee since assuming office. In a positive development, Lee told Yoon that his party would support the government's high-stakes push to increase medical school students. Lee asked Yoon to consider his Democratic Party's proposal to provide an income allowance to all citizens. Lee also pressured the president to accept special investigations into allegations involving top officials and his wife. Yoon's office say the president and Lee have agreed to meet frequently, but a date for their next meeting has not been set yet. And thank you very much for watching this edition of Race to Power on WION World is One. I'm Eric Njoka. Stay with us. This is WION World is One.